Welcome to another episode of The Scoop. Tonight I am joined by Arabesque.
What's going on, guys?
Hi.
For starters, y'all are from Hattiesburg, correct?
That's
Yes.
right.
They
Hattiesburg,
are.
Mississippi.
So, Rin, you're from down here.
Yes.
So for starters, this kind of intrigued me when I saw that she had joined with y'all. How did y'all meet with Rin?
Okay, well, first off, Ren and I knew each other from a long time ago. We were actually, probably the first show I ever played was my 16th birthday party. And she was in the band with me at the time, and we played it. We had police actually show up, noise complaint, and my parents stood out there and made sure they wouldn't mess with us until we were kind of done with our set. And so we've known each other for a long time. She ended up moving out here, I think, about during high school, and so
Yeah, right before high school started.
right before high school,
Yeah.
we just ended up reconnecting last year or so.
All right. So, what kind of band are y'all?
Traditionally we're metalcore.
Okay.
We refer to ourselves as theatrical metalcore because we like to put a big emphasis on the showmanship. You know what I mean? So when we play, we're very energetic, we're very aggressive. We like to have a big atmosphere. So we really consider ourselves theatrical metalcore.
All right. So, who do y'all use to inspire y'all?
I would say, well, my biggest inspiration is a band called Alisana. They're my all-time favorite band. But if I had to compare our music to other bands, I'd say like Bring Me the Horizon or Sworn In. We've been compared to them a lot when we play live.
I strictly take from jazz. Nothing else. I don't listen to much metal.
Really?
I honestly I do, but not a lot. I like to listen to a bunch of really awkward and very out there fringe kind of Japanese pop stars. I'm not joking.
Okay.
It sounds like a joke,
No,
but I really do. So that's kind of where I pull a lot of influence from.
Well, and Rin, how about you?
Well, let's see. I've been in ska bands and like punk bands.
Yeah,
and so,
I know that
I like
some
to
of your
run
experience
around
from like COG and,
Yeah, and like Cicada and like Hollis. I love him so much. So Fat, Stupid, Ugly People. I enjoy shows where you run around and throw beer at each other. So.
So, how does all of your inspirations come together?
Well, the way I see it, I feel like she's talking about the bands she's played with in the past. I feel like that really comes because, like I said, we're theatrical metalcore. We like to perform. We like to be energetic. And the fact that she loves to run around on stage really helps. As far as, like, musical inspiration, since a lot of the writing is done by me and him, we haven't really gotten a chance to see how that music clicks yet because the music we've been writing recently is mainly just me and him, and she joined the band here in the past, few
I'm
months.
new. So.
Yeah, I remember just a few months ago when you posted that
Yeah.
you joined.
Yeah, I was excited. It's been a long time since I've played music. I haven't played in a band seriously since COG, so I don't know.
You wouldn't be able to tell.
Yeah, we're very excited to have her, and she's damn good.
So, y'all are writing the music right now. Has it always been y'all as a combo?
No, it's
Writing,
actually
or-
been him first.
Yeah.
He founded the Arabesque kind of foundation.
Yeah, so originally, I wrote the whole first album by myself. We look on it now as sort of a demo, but I wrote it all myself. The music we played for a long time. There was 16 songs on it. So I sat down and I spent about 3 months doing nothing but writing this album that I had an idea for.
And this is about the same time that we actually met.
Yeah, so
And so he was trying to pull me in on it, but I was in college at the time. I had been in a lot of bands previously, and I honestly didn't take him seriously. He had never been in a band or anything. I had heard him. He had done, covers, and I'd heard like a couple of original diddlies. And so I thought, well, he's got raw talent. He's got some stuff going on. Like I would be interested, but I've got finals going on and stuff. So I kind of just skirted that off until after Christmas break. And then as soon as I come back, he goes, hey man, you want to check out my album? It's finished. I'm about to go get it all recorded professionally and everything. I was like, oh, you did that? so you did it, and I was very impressed. I was like, all right, of course, I want to come on, I want to listen to it and everything. And so after that, I saw that he was very serious, because before this, he had never been in a band.
That's true.
He had never had much musical experience, so I took that as he had a lot of aspiration, but I didn't know if he could get it done. And then I saw he got it done. I was like, oh, I'm kind of jealous. I wish I would have been on the train now. Wish I would have helped do some of the writing for it.
I think it turned out for the best because, while we don't really mess with the original material as much, bringing him on board changed the entire tone of the band. So
You really got a lot of your teen angst out.
yeah, that's true. I got a lot of the teen angst out in that first little demo album, so that whenever he came on board, things got a lot more serious. So I was just, like you said, I've never been in a band. I don't know much about how to be in a band, how to do these things. I just knew I wanted to write music. I didn't even know how to do that either. So I just started doing it. I started writing music. I started just getting in there and programming and learning how to make sound effects. And once I'd done all of that, he came in and said, okay, but you're doing it like haphazardly without any direction. So whenever Zach joined on board, it solidified and put us in a good direction, and everything started being taken a lot more seriously. He's been in a lot of bands. He's in school for business management. He just knows a lot more of what he's doing in those aspects.
And you can feel it, like, after I listened to your first album and then I listened to the second one, you can you can feel it growing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because it's getting more influence from outside and
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
like culturing like a bacteria.
We're roommates, so all we do is talk about it. So our influences mixed pretty not well at first.
No,
we're
not at all.
both pretty hard headed and everything. So we'd argue over the placement of like a snare
A
for
single snare.
days on end, and we'd be angry at each other. But I mean, we're adults, so we'd be able to be like, all right, we're gonna continue to work on it, right? Be like, yeah, of course. I'm just mad at you. Let's do this. And so it ended up working to really grow the original band instead of becoming something new. It's got a lot of message behind it. He's a very passionate person, and so he puts his heart into it. And so I was taken aback by that and said I'd really like to jump in with it. And these things we're talking about, I've experienced it as long as I've been alive. So I'd like to do something like that.
I really kind of consider us an inseparable combo at this point, but I want to touch on something you said earlier. When we started, it was hell. So he and I could not get along like at all for some. Like we got along well whenever we weren't talking about music, but as soon as we sat down and started trying to write, I'd be like, "But I think it should be this way," and he'd be like, "No, I think it should be the other way." And we would argue about the smallest thing for like an hour and a half and get nothing done. And then we'd be like, wow, we just wasted our whole night and got nothing accomplished. And it was like that for months until we finally got into a system that started working. And once we figured out how to make that work, it took a lot of persistence. It got a lot easier. And now when we sit down to write music, it's fluid. It just happens like a waterfall.
Well, and y'all are working on recording your current or your second EP right now?
So what I'll say, it's actually already been recorded. We've already we've written it together. It was me and him together. We wrote the whole thing. It's 5 tracks. And we went to Georgia and we recorded it with Lee Jennings at Ghost Kids Collective. It was a wonderful experience. But it's recorded. We're just waiting on how we want to go about releasing the tracks because we want it to have a lot of impact.
So y'all are thinking about whether you want to release it as a whole or one at a time, or just the order that you want them on the CD, in which fashion?
Most of those things are finished, the album artwork, all that kind of stuff. We were really wanting to put out a music video with each song. And so we wanted to announce it all, very official, with a video as well as the track, and then release it a few months later saying to let it kind of build up some steam and stuff like that, because we'd be playing the music and we'd start selling. We have a lot of merch. We work with an artist named Farrell Laboa. He's just wonderful. And we work... What?
He's a saint.
Yeah, he really is. We Skype with him a lot. We're very back and forth. He does a lot of his own artwork for different people and stuff like that. Has just a great vision, and he's done a lot of stuff for us that we've worked together on, and we're just excited to be able to release all that. So we'll be able to do that before we actually release the album, probably in late summer, early autumn.
Yeah, but we're sitting on it right now because we want to make sure everything is released properly and correctly and with the best of quality, and we don't end up looking back and be like, damn it, if only we had waited and just done that one more thing. You know what I mean?
Well, I know that y'all play a lot in Hattiesburg because that's where you're from, but y'all do play some down here. In the upcoming months leading up to the CD, are y'all going to be doing more tour per se down to here?
For sure. We do have a couple of shows already lined up before the album comes out that we're excited to play. We want to get back in New Orleans as soon as possible. I think we played more shows in New Orleans than we have in our hometown.
Yeah, and they've all been really great experiences.
Yeah, every time we come to New Orleans, they're always very welcoming. We love it here. We are working on a possible little like weekend mini tour for the album's release, but we're not sure on whether or not that's going to happen. So I'm not going to say too much on that.
Well, because I'm not familiar, what kind of differences are there between the Hattiesburg scene and the scene here?
Well, around the entire area of the Gulf Coast, I've seen it come and go, but right now it's starting to get a lot stronger. And so it seems like everyone's just a little bit more welcoming of all kinds of music coming in right now. From down to Florida, down to Louisiana, that's kind of where we can easily play, how everyone has a job and everything. And so that's where we normally go. And through that whole area, it started coming together a lot more, and there's a lot of great metal bands. There's a lot of great punk bands. Punk seems to be really popular where we're from. There's a lot of house shows, which are always a lot of fun to go to. It's a lot more personal.
Yeah,
you can really
punk is like
yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's
More
got like a
around
family element to it. The whole scene does now more so than it did a few years ago, and so that's been a great thing.
Yeah, over the past year, I have seen a growth down here in the scene to where it seems like there's a lot of bands that are, you'll see them working together a lot. You'll see them pushing each other to go do mini tours together.
Yeah,
things of that
which
nature.
are great. Those help out just immensely. We did one in the end of 2016 with a good friend of ours in the Tundra, and it went great. We went up to Tennessee and back. We did a nice little circuit, and
the last one I did was with Cog. We went all the way up to Michigan
really
for a steampunk convention, and we played. We
steampunk
did a
convention.
swing version of Cog. So we did Steam Cog. And we redid all the songs to be like jazzy.
That's really unique.
And like we dressed up as our characters' grandparents, and like so he was Milo Thaddeus Pinkerton the first.
Yeah.
I love that.
He was
You have
grandpa.
backstory behind it all.
It is awesome. It was awesome. It was so much fun. I wish I would have been more into steampunk at the time. Honestly,
Well, steampunk's so cool.
I know, and I think it's so cool now. But at the time, I was like I was an asshole, and I was just like, well, I wasn't mean to anybody, but I was just like, man, this isn't cool. And
You're too cool for steampunk?
Yeah, I was too cool for steampunk. And then I was like,
See how it is.
looking back, I'm like, man, some of my, like, two of my best friends are super into that too. Sharky and Jade. Like, they're freaking awesome. They run, like, Steampunk New Orleans, or they're, like, really heavily involved in it. I'm not sure if they run it. But, yeah.
So you'd mentioned that y'all went to Georgia to record.
Right.
What was it like recording there as opposed to recording? How'd y'all record your first album? I guess would be.
Well, actually, let's talk about that first. Let's talk about the recording of the
The
first.
first album, okay.
All right. So with the recording of the first time, again, we really consider that to be like more of a demo. You know, it's not really available anywhere for purchase or anything. If you can get it from us, you can get physical copies if you want them. But we really consider it like a demo. And the way that we went about that was before he was official member of the band. It was just me flying solo. So I recorded everything myself originally. I recorded the guitar, I wrote the guitar, I like programmed in the drums. And then I had this good friend of mine, his name was Jared Rainey. And at the time he ran a studio. He doesn't anymore, but when he ran it then, it was called Pro 9 Recordings and Mixes. So I got with him and I said, hey man, I have this 16-song album I'm working on. Would you mind working with me on it? And he said, yeah, I'm down. So I started going over to his house, like, once a week, and I would record the vocals with him, and we would reprogram the drums and everything. And
That's when I started coming more on board, too.
Yeah, that's when
I
Zach
was in there for the mastering some.
Zach had started getting a little, because they'd all been written before Zach came back, but when he came back, I was just getting into, like, the remixing and the re-recording and everything, so he started getting involved more then. And when we got everything written and recorded and mixed the way we wanted it, he actually played the first 2 official shows with us as our drummer. And we love him to death, but he had to go live his life, and he became a family man, and I think he runs his own shop now. Yeah,
Yeah, a
capitalism.
vape shop.
Yeah, he owns a vape
Yay,
shop.
capitalism.
I think it's called Crazy
We-
8 Vapor. Check it out.
We had a nickname for him. We called him the Sheriff.
Yeah. Yeah, he wore like blue jeans and a hat on stage, and definitely doesn't match our aesthetic anymore. But back then we were young, we were a baby band, we were still learning it. So that's kind of how the first album came together. It was very, very personal experience. It wasn't crazy. It took place over the course of like 2 months. I would just go hang out at his house. We would do some mixing and mastering and stuff. The second process was very different. So with that,
We had a single, and that was the whole thing.
Should we talk about the single?
Going to Texas.
So let's throw that in there too. In between recording that demo album and recording our first EP, we did record a single called "Prelude to a Funeral," and you can find that on YouTube right now. It's on our channel at Official Arabesque. We went to Texas to record that one. We went all the way to Houston and we recorded it with Silverline Studios.
Silverline Studios, yeah.
Yeah, and that was a pretty nice experience, but it was just a day. We went there for one day and we recorded it and it was mixed and mastered and we left. And then when we went to Georgia, that was a full weekend. So we got there on a Friday or a Saturday.
We got there on like a Thursday night
Was it?
because then we started the next day bright and early.
Yeah. That was a lovely experience.
That was one of the best experiences. I've recorded with other bands and stuff too, and nothing's ever compared. So we show up, and he's just, first off, the atmosphere, the scenery is beautiful. He lives up in the mountains with like almost log cabins, and it was so nice. It was a breath of fresh air, and we thought maybe we'd get a hotel or something between working on the album, and he just said, "Oh no, you can use this double wide trailer that's got 3 beds and full electricity, running water, stuff in the fridge. Grab it." And we're like, "Wow, thanks so much." He's like, "Perfect. If you need anything, just come inside my house and get it." And we're like, "Appreciate that, man." His studio was very nice. He was very knowledgeable. He was a lot of fun to work with. He's the vocalist for a band
Called The Funeral Portrait.
Yep.
I've been a fan of The Funeral Portrait for a couple of years. That's why I wanted to record with them, because I saw that he did recording, mixing, and mastering, and me being a fan of his band, I was like, I want to work with him. I want to meet up with him and have his opinion on the music. So when we did go record with him, like Zach said, he was very knowledgeable. He knew what he was doing. He was able to really help us push the music to where we wanted to get it.
So who all was recording on the new EP?
It was just the two of us.
Yeah, well, the drums were all programmed already in MIDI file, so we were able to just modulate and change sounds kind of deal. And I recorded the bass and guitar because this is before we had Ren. And some backup vocals. He did all the vocals.
We do have a drummer, by the way.
Yeah, we do
We
have
do
a
have
drummer.
we do have a
He's
drummer.
not here today.
Yeah, we have a drummer. His name is Randy Thompson. He is lovely. We love him.
There's a whole story with him that we might get into in a little bit.
But when we went to the studio, it was me and it was Zach and it was a guy who was filling in on drums for us at the time named Nathaniel, and we didn't really we didn't want to go into recording live drums because that was a lot of extra money and time, and we're really just trying to get our music out there to the best of quality. So we decided to go with programmed drums for this one. So all we had to do was Zach recorded the guitar and he recorded the bass, and then I recorded the screams and a lot of the clean vocals, and then Zach came in after me and did some backups for both of those.
Yeah, for like the 3 days we were recording, it was like 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. kind of deal. And we'd hit Walmart, get some Hot Pockets, and rest up and do it again the next day. So it was very productive.
I can't wait to do it again, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's what he told us. He said, man, come back and record your full length here. And we said we might have a lot of that written already.
Wink, wink.
So
Did you feel like it took y'all multiple takes to get things down, or do you feel like the environment and working with your producer made it easier for you to
definitely made
almost
it
do
easier.
it on a
Yeah.
1 take, 2 take type?
Well, and we also brought almost too much stuff to make sure we had enough. He makes all the soundscapes. Every sound you hear, it's him actually modulating it and fixing it how we want it to sound.
So let me just go into that real quick. Everything you hear on our EP, whenever it comes out, it was all original. So like you might hear 1 or 2 samples that he threw in there, but the atmosphere, the soundscape, the notes, everything was written by the band. We do not outsource. It is all written by us. So I take a lot of pride in that. You know, I take a lot of pride in the fact that our band is responsible for what you hear. I write all the lyrics myself. Zach writes a big chunk of the guitar. I come in and, you know, I write a few breakdowns here and there. All the soundscape and sound effects and atmosphere, it's all written by me. The drums are written by Zach and I. The bass was written by Zach. So in the future, we're going to have our drummer write all the drums, and she's going to be writing the bass. But everything will be written by the band.
It's already started transitioning that way when we do live practice and stuff. It's already such a fuller experience because we are able to start writing new ideas and stuff like that.
Well,
and
yeah, it's good to have, like, you know, you can play bass, but you're not a bass player. So
exactly.
it's like,
I'm a guitar player, so
Yeah.
I structure the bass like the guitar would be
It's
structured,
gonna
and that's
help
not quite how it should
and
be.
like, you know, Randy will have more of like an idea of like what is like a comfortable like
Exactly.
fill.
It will help immensely having those two on board and significantly more involved in the process. Now, I'm not trying to take away credit from our producer Lee because he was fantastic. But what I'm saying is, we wrote it and we're proud of it. So what
Yeah.
you hear him doing is he mixed it to perfection. He mixed it, he mastered it, he made it all sound good. We recorded our guitar and our bass through him, and he's a master. You know, he knew what he was doing. But the music itself was written by us.
So when y'all do your CD release party, where are y'all looking to do it? Are y'all looking to do it in Hattiesburg? You looking to do it down here? Just do
I
a
know.
tour? I mean,
I don't think we've given any thought to that.
We really haven't. I want to go somewhere exotic.
Yeah.
Take me to the Bahamas. Let's do it there. We had one for the original CD was called Crucible. We had one for it. We just do it at our house, but we had a nice 2-story house at the time. So we had some room for it, but that was a lot of fun. It was very personal though. And so like everyone there got copies of the CDs, the original CDs. There was 50 original CDs that we printed that have different art and design to it and everything. And then we printed more so that those would be, you know, kind of,
The
Different.
regular.
yeah, you know, they'd be
So
extra, so to
you'll never
say.
find CDs like that again. They're completely original.
Yeah.
Nice.
and what's the new album going to be called?
It's gonna be titled Blood Snake. So that's the name of the EP. So Arabesque Blood Snake.
Yep, 5 tracks. And we've gotten the masters back. We just, you know, working with them, little tweaks here and there.
I'm very particular.
But yeah, well, I mean,
When I get the track back, I will listen to the same track for like 7 to 10 times in a row, listening meticulously to make sure everything is exactly the way I want it. So I'll send him some notes and be like, hey, this one sample isn't quite loud enough. Can we raise the volume on it just a hair? And can we
it's
lower
just
the
nitpicky
volume?
stuff.
Very nitpicky. I
Well,
want
that
it
stuff's
to be
got to happen,
perfect.
though, yeah.
Hey,
But
there's
so
nothing wrong with that.
yeah. But I have heard those, and they sound pretty good.
With the videos that y'all looking to release with the tracks, are y'all starting to write storylines per se behind the
Yes.
videos? Or-
Yes.
I'm very
yes.
glad you
Well, because
asked.
the whole album has a story with it. It's a very conceptual, band, honestly, but it's a very conceptual album and specific. That's your territory.
Yeah, with the music videos, we are looking to tell some. Think of it like a pseudo story. So I want the album to feel personal to the listener. I want them to be able to listen to the individual tracks and relate to them in different ways. But also, I want there to be a concept that's there that really drives it home. So I don't call the album a concept album because it's not like I wrote a story and then we base it around that. It's like half and half. So the music videos are planned to be very atmospheric as well as pushing forward a small narrative that people can kind of get into. With the album, we have a specific message we're trying to really relate to, and that is the severe problem of suicide in our modern day. So I don't want to go too solemn here, but if we're getting into some statistics here, there's in the United States alone, there's 118 suicides per day. Only in the United States. And that's always resonated with me, and it's always been a problem. I've struggled with it myself, with depression and thoughts of suicide, and I want to reach out to that demographic because whenever I was in that place, music helped me a lot. I would listen to it, I would relate to it, I would feel the
Mental
lyrics.
health is a real thing.
It is.
I'm on medications myself.
And what we're trying to drive here is we're trying to cover the different parts of what relates to these suicides. So if it's 118 suicides a day, a lot of those come from depression. So each song covers a different avenue of that. Like for instance, the first song comes from the perspective of like a male character. He's nameless. Like I said, it's like a pseudo story, but it's a male character who sees the world as different. He sees culture as different. So he tries his best to stand apart. He says, I don't have to be like you. In fact, I will be the opposite of you. I will look at culture and I'll be its opposite. I want so badly to be different. The second song follows up with that, with the consequences of that decision. Culture, they reject him. They turn against him. And it causes him to go into a severe depression. He starts to question himself, his worth, his existence. And by the end of the song, he takes his life. And then there's an instrumental track that's meant to really resonate with that idea, followed by the title track, Bloodsnake, which it takes place from the perspective of a female who was really good friends with that male character, who sees what he did and sees the consequences. And that takes place, it's like the aftermath. After the suicide has been committed, everyone seems like they missed him. Like, gone too soon, we loved him. And she looks at it and says, but you were vultures around him. You all treated him like a pariah and different, and now that he's dead, suddenly he was a saint? And I'm trying to unveil the hypocrisy of those reactions. I've had to see those types of reactions personally. It's a lot of it personal experience. I think probably anybody is familiar with these concepts.
Yeah, when someone dies, people that were mean to them or
death is a touchy subject in itself.
Yeah.
It's part of the cycle, but it's it's the part that's the biggest unknown. And so it's a scary thing to talk about and think about.
So, how are y'all looking to record the videos?
Andrew, we work with a cinematographer who is great. We have a music video out right now that we shot and directed.
Right.
We directed it, and it came out really good. We were excited about it, but we've learned a lot since then. And this time we've written 2 or 3 of the scripts are like fully done. There's some other ones that are in the works. And the first one we'll be doing in the next couple of weeks, actually. Mm-hmm. We have all the locations scouted out and everything. We did a lot more preemptive work than last time, basically. And so it's going to be him shooting multiple days, a lot of coming home and starting the editing process early to make sure we have the footage that we wanted and needed and all that. Because the last one we were coming up with, we had an idea, obviously, for the first music video, but we came up with a lot of ideas on the spot because we were in the mode. We were in the mood,
once you're in the scene,
things started changing and adapting. Yeah. But this time is going to be a lot less of that because we have experience. Well, we've solidified this a lot more. The album started with me and him starting to write it. So from the very beginning, we said, how is it going to be presented? Not just how's the music going to sound, but how is the whole image going to be presented? Because it's a dark, touchy subject. It's not an easy thing to hear, but it's not something that everyone needs to hear. But the people that do need to hear it, hopefully it would resonate and it would show that other people obviously feel this too, even though you're scared to talk about it on a grand scale. It is something that we're here for you personally.
It spoke to me. That's part of the reason why I agreed to join with you guys was I know you guys convinced me to shake the cobwebs off. You know what I mean? I haven't played bass seriously since 2012.
I know that surprised me too because I was like, we were looking for a bass player and I was like, I have a good friend who lives all the way in New Orleans, so I'm not sure if that would work, but I don't even know if she plays bass anymore. But I'll ask her. I sent her one message that said, "Will you join my emo hardcore band, please?" And she was just like, "Yeah, sure. That sounds good. Let's start getting together." I was just like,
really?
Well, here, let me send you some songs. Here's the demos that we just went and did. And she's like, okay, cool. So let's get some practice days. I was like, Evan, she's down.
I was like, yes!
Because we live together. So I screamed from the other room. I'm like, I think it's happening.
So
sounds like you're having a baby. It's happening.
It's time. Pack the bags.
Arabesque was being born.
Wow.
So with the first album, did it have a similar storyline per se?
Yes and no. So with the first album, it was not a concept album at all. Like he said about the teen angst thing, it was an angsty teenager writing about his problems. That was me. It was not really conceptual. It wasn't a storyline. It was just all heartfelt lyrics. I was in a 4-year-long relationship, and you spend your entire teenage existence with one girl. you find out that that she cheated on you and she broke up with you. It's typical story. You've heard it all before. And I didn't handle it well, so I said I'm gonna go write a 16-song album about this girl, and that's what I did. And that's the whole point of the original album. It's 16 songs about me crying about my heartbreak. But that's
Hey, you gotta get it out somehow.
There's good material on it. For never writing songs before, it came out with some really good material. The recording of it wasn't fantastic because he's a vocalist. Sure, he plays guitar, he can play drums a little bit, but those aren't his fortes. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, honestly, there's tracks that we still use in our main set. We've slightly spiced them up for a live setting, and that's about it. They stayed the same. And so that's songs we still deem good enough to play right now.
Yeah, a big part of it, though, is that I never intended to play these songs live. I just wrote them to put them out and feel those emotions. But, it was whenever Zach started getting involved that he was like, we can make this into a real band. So that's why the lens of the new EP, Bloodsnake, has been so different. Because now we're looking at it as like, this isn't just you writing music. This is a band. Yeah. This is real. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So Arabesque is your first band ever then?
Ever, yes. I was never involved in music in any capacity before I started writing music for this band.
We were in a band called Clockwork and Consciousness for all of 2 weeks. We thought maybe we'd go in a brand new direction right when we first started out, and that was where we got, I think, the biggest kinks of our co-writing. Yeah. All of our drama out of the way, because I think there's maybe 2 half demos done, pretty decent songs, but I remember recording them, and that was not a decent process.
So the original idea was like, I was like, well, I intend to write this album, and he was like, I don't know, maybe we should go in a new direction, and we thought, Clockwork and Consciousness. I remember coming up with the title. I was like, that sounds cool enough, and we messed with that for a while, and I think at some point we were like, this isn't gonna work. We
were recording with somebody who was a bit lackluster. We were just arguing about a snare placement for 4 days in a row, and homeboy did not want to hear it, and so we got some songs out of it. I still have them on a half broken Mac Pro that I can barely get to turn on, so maybe it's for the best that they're just left there.
Well, like you said, we did get a lot of those co-writing kinks out of the way early, and it helped.
It was an experiment.
It also helped because all of that anger was focused at a different band name instead of being like Arabesque. Oh, we have so many problems for Arabesque. No, they were for Clockwork and Consciousness. I remember being in those problems. Good thing we're in this band now.
So, how did y'all come up with the name Arabesque?
I'm glad you asked that too. So, for anyone who's interested in explicit detail, there is a video on our YouTube channel that explains it all called What is Arabesque, but I want to go ahead and get into that here now because it's kind of convoluted. So the word arabesque originally it represents an art style. So there's an Arabic art style where it's intertwined lines. It's these big patterns. So now you've probably seen it before. Kind of like mandalas. Huh? It's very pretty patterned art styles.
It's a lot of foliage.
Yeah, a lot
of.
Think Victorian. Think Baroque Victorian art. It originates from the Middle East. It's a Middle Eastern art style. A particular poet named Edgar Allan Poe loved arabesque art, and he actually saw his poetry that he wrote as arabesque in nature, to quote him.
The way it would twine.
Mm-hmm, the way it intertwined, the way it was focused in on beauty. He believed in writing stories and writing poetry for art and only art. He didn't believe in subliminal messages or didacticism or hidden agendas. So when it came to writing poetry, he wanted to represent it as arabesque. And he actually released a book that he titled Tales of the Grotesque and Arabesque. And I'm a big fan of Poe. I've read all of his stories. I've read all of his poetry. I even wrote a 15, 20-page paper on him. So whenever I was learning more about Edgar Allan Poe, and I saw that he referred to his stories as arabesque in nature, I said, I want my music to be that. I want my music to be that art style, that intertwined, interesting, beautiful pattern. I want it to be arabesque, and that's where the name came from. Also, subnote, it's also a dance move. It's a ballet move called arabesque. There's an arabesque dance move. But that's irrelevant.
That's what Zach does on stage.
He strikes the arabesque on stage.
I do a lot of ballerina-esque moves. I'm a little bit wild when it comes to our live shows. Yeah. I feel like the stage, you don't have to stay there the whole time. I have a wireless system. I can go and play with people in the crowd. I can go to the bar, maybe order a drink real quick, and I can still come back up stage and try not to fall down again.
So is that the main way that y'all are adding theatrics to your stage show? I mean, is there
Well,
you
this
know, like a
is
video. Well, I'm just trying to get a full understanding. You know, do y'all mix in? I mean, obviously, partially the lighting, but you know, as a lighting expert yourself, there's just putting a light on per se, and then
there's
using
making a show.
Yeah.
right.
Well, actually, like you said, I'm gonna hopefully have a lot of fun with this because
Yeah.
of the fact, specifically because whenever he was talking about sound effects and like scenic or what was the word you used?
Aesthetic or
No, for the atmospheric sounds and things like that. So I can, design light shows that go perfectly in time with the music. You know what I mean? And like, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm actually really looking
I'll just
forward
say
to
that
this.
in the few months she's been in this band, she's already been an enormous blessing. And the fact that she has these skills, I just looked at it, I was like, I'm glad you exist. I cannot wait to just hand her the reins to like the live show and be like, make it great.
Yeah.
I
Because
mean,
I know
working
she's
in
gonna
the
do great
House of
things.
Shock for so many years, I know how to make a spectacle.
Yeah.
Well, you and I went to someone who's
Lewis.
in
No,
Cog's house.
I
Yeah.
introduced him to Lewis. We went by the secret lab for a little while and discussed how to rip things apart.
Yes, my mind was blown many a times. I was just saying, oh, it's all possible. We're just a young broke band, so someday it's possible.
It's
You can see some of that in one of our vlogs on YouTube.
What?
That house you're at? Wasn't that the place with the
Yeah.
giant
yeah.
No.
That was my
was
my
where-
boyfriend's warehouse,
yeah.
which actually
I didn't get much footage of the other place because I was too busy writing down notes. I was like, what? Say that again? It's a what? What? Okay, great.
But my boyfriend is a scenic designer, which is also
Right.
probably going to be really fun because through that I have access to props. I have access to like I know how to program CNC routers. You
I
throw
like
a whole
props.
piece of like plywood
Like
on
mannequins.
something, and it can carve out like. So you can make like backdrops, something that's backlit, and like I don't know. You can have a lot of fun.
Yeah, Randy's actually getting us a whole backdrop made like on cloth. He's like
saw
hand
that.
painting it.
A quick shout out to our drummer Randy Thompson.
Again.
He's not here, but I love him anyway.
Oh, this is a good time to get
pretty
into the
cool.
story of Randy Thompson.
Can we do that real quick?
Okay, so whenever we went to Georgia to record the album, like he said, we had a fill-in drummer at the time. A great guy, Nathaniel. We loved him. He played a bunch of shows with us. And so it's not like we parted on bad terms or anything. It's our drummer's hand was broken at the time. And because we played a show in New Orleans. In New
yeah.
Orleans, so we played with Raise the Death Toll.
Great.
And
All right.
yeah, oh, we love those guys.
That was a Southport.
Yeah, they were getting in the pit. I'm over here holding my nice iced tea, and I'm just I'm jiving, and Randy just starts the metal just starts hitting him. He just starts throwing those hands, and Evan just caught one right in the nose. And I watched the whole thing because right beforehand he hit my tea, and I was like, oh no, he like crushed my can. I was like, dude,
Yeah.
and it was one of those hits that Evan just. And turned away and left, and I was like, "Oh, he's really hurt."
Yeah,
He didn't stop and say, "Oh, you hit me, dude." He just left because he knew that he needed to go.
It's bad.
I
when
was
they
like,
just
"Oh
turn and
no!"
leave.
So I just started following the trail of blood left by it. I was like, "Oh, Evan."
There was a lot of blood.
Well, it deviated his septum. It cracked some of the bones in Randy's hand, like full on.
Good God.
Randy was like sick afterwards. He was very pale. I was like, I think Evan's gonna be okay. He's a big boy. Because I told Evan, I was instantly like, hey, dude, we've played already. I was like, I know we wanted to stay till the end. Obviously, it's a show. We're there to be. We're at business. We're at work. So we stayed till the end. But I was like, we can pack everything up and let's get out of here. Let's go get your nose taken care of. He's like, no, we stay. And I'm like, there's
right.
blood dripping out. I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, we're gonna stay.
But
That
Randy
time.
was like pale faced, so I was telling him, Evan, I think he's okay. He wants to stay. If he needed to just go to the hospital, we'd be worried then. But he was all pale, and I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with you, dude. Are you just upset that you hit him? And he was really upset.
so upset.
And then I started noticing him holding his hand a lot, and he like pulled his hand away, and it's kind of deformed. I was like, have you looked
Oh.
at that? And he's like, no. And so that ended up happening. Poor, he's not a frail person, but it makes me think this because we were on tour. The first day of tour, we played with Blood on the Dance Floor.
That's something that happened. In
That's
New Orleans.
New Orleans. That was a piece of our past. And
was
Randy just, they're honestly a lot better live than I would have thought. I never gave him the time of day
We're
when.
getting off topic.
Okay. Randy gives himself a nice foot stomp. and just breaks his heel the day
God.
before tour, where we're going to Alabama the next day, Tennessee the next day. He played the whole show, walked around with us,
Didn't
never
miss a beat.
never bitched or moaned once, really. Evan was like, I've got these like 400 milligram or 800 milligram ibuprofen, take one, dude. And he's like, I don't really like taking drugs, I'm like, this isn't a drug, Randy.
Yeah, this is a Tylenol.
But he didn't ever complain, played all the shows, and
We may have made Randy sound like, kind of muscular the way we've been describing. He's the smallest one of all of us. All four of
is.
us.
I'm bigger than him.
He is very small.
that's why I didn't want to call him
That
frail,
makes him
but he
agile
keeps
behind the
breaking.
drums.
That's what it is.
He's a monster behind those drums, but he's little.
We played football one time and a friend broke his jaw. He had to have it wired shut for weeks.
That sucks.
Poor Randy.
But we do like to joke and say he broke his hand on my face. It always confuses people.
That's why he had to step down for a little bit. Like, oh, so you guys got into a fight? Be like, what?
No, not exactly. He
Why-
broke his
where'd
hand
you
on
get that
my face.
from?
So,
Oh, man.
what's your favorite place to play? You've mentioned that y'all went on a tour through a little bit of Tennessee and Alabama and whatnot. Y'all played down here, Hattiesburg. What's your favorite place that you've ever played?
Nashville.
Yeah, Nashville was our best show. I really like playing around the New Orleans area, just because it's always a party. But the Nashville show we played,
That was that show in particular, though.
I
was the
don't
band.
know what happened. Well, there was a good friend of ours who he's letting us stay with them while we
Pierce
stayed there.
Lancaster.
Yeah, they
Shout
were
out
in
to you,
this
Pierce.
band. Shout out to you, Pierce. We were in this. He was in this band called Bias. They were a punk band. They were really good, and they had a lot of people in the audience were there for them, and it was just a lot of clean fun, basically. And then the crowd was just the reason why it was so good, because afterwards when we started playing, I was just I pulled off their energy. I siphoned it, and I was running around.
Energy vampires.
Our lead guitarist was like walking across the bar playing his solos, and I was just running across the stage, jumping off Randy's drums. I was looking at him. He couldn't stop smiling. Evan's just floating off the crowd. I'm like, all right, good. I have a lot more room now.
Rest in peace, Cowbell Kid.
Oh my gosh. There was this kid who got destroyed 5 or 6 times just in a row, and I watched
so
it.
bad for that
He got his head slammed into something.
man.
He broke his heel. I saw him pull his
was
sock
so
and shoe
bad.
off. It was already purple
The
big.
bone was like deformed in the wrong place.
This kid just kept getting hit, and he'd like turn around.
He didn't care.
There was this guy who threw down. I mean, he's a big dude. He just started throwing like horse kicks backwards, kicked Cowbell Kid maybe 6 times, and I was just. It all happened within 2 minutes.
I didn't
and
see it until after because we saw it on footage.
Oh no, I watched it in person. I was like, Cowbell Kid. Well, because his whole stick was he was gonna jump up at one part of their bias set and play the cowbell. It was like a rhythmic part, and he just kept jumping up there and like, not yet, dude. And it was just a lot of fun, and that's all he wanted, man, was just to play the cowbell.
I lost my wireless mic for like a full song of that set.
Right,
because like it just got
come-
thrown into the crowd. I was like, all right then. I just started using his mic. I was like, if you guys find my mic, can you like bring it back? And they did, surprisingly. They're like, dude, here's your mic.
I remember that clearly, because as you come back up from crowd surfing, you took my mic because I was walking towards it, and I was like, I'm busy anyway. And you were like, my mic is somewhere over there. And I was like, we need that.
It was like after a song. Yeah, I was like, if anybody finds that, can you like get it back to me?
He walked up like, I'm going to use this. I was like, feel free.
So, what would you say was the biggest letdown per se for a place that you've ever played? Not necessarily because of, I mean, it could have been just you were expecting the bands to be awesome and one of them just had an off night, or
The immediate show after this show we just talked about.
No joke.
I won't go into names
Yeah,
or a
we don't
venue
like
or
to talk
anything.
shade. We like to say
but it
positive.
was just a bad experience. We the place we stayed in, it started snowing heavily, so we left on time. We're getting where we need to go. The whole way down there was awful weather, and the guy driving, hats off to him, because I was scared the whole time. I was like, I would have pulled us over and we would have been late for the show or missed it. It's so bad. He got us there. We got there well before we were supposed to play, and the promoter was just very unwelcoming,
Yeah,
to say the least. The whole show was just bad. Our our secret goal was to never get asked to play again by this promoter. It was just like a kind of inside joke goal. So we started the set, and it's our mic stand. It was not their equipment or
it was
anything.
mind-blowing to me.
He takes his wireless mark off, and he's like, "Fuck this place," and he just started slamming it until he broke it into pieces.
shattered it.
Missed all of his vocal parts, and I just ran away. I started running into the crowd, jumping into people.
Yeah, we ended the set standing on tables.
So I mean, it ended up being okay, but it was raining, and it was
We got there late, and one of the other bands was like talking shit about us.
one of the other bands was
we're
talking
headlining.
badly to the girlfriend of one of the band members for our band. The other guitarist at the time, it was the girlfriend. He was talking directly to her about how bad this band was. He goes, "Cool, it's my boyfriend's band. They should be here in a few minutes." And so he just obviously probably felt kind of like a dick. And apparently, 10 minutes later, she texts us back and says he was in the pit and one of his teeth got knocked out.
Rest in peace.
I was like, I'm just sitting in a car trying to get to the venue. But that sure does seem like karma.
It started pouring down rain at one point on the drive. I was like, fucking
Well, that's
hell.
why I was like,
Like, we got to the venue, and like it was raining on us as we unloaded our equipment.
Oh,
It's like last night's show was so good though.
it was kept being half and half. We stopped at like Jack in the Box, and like half of, because it was 4 people, so half of us were like, we're gonna call off the show. Like the promoter's being very mean to us, honestly, and out of nowhere. And the other half of the car was like, no, we're not. And it just kept changing. It would be like, all right, the people in the front seat want to go. We
because
don't want to go.
we went to
And then
Jack-
it would be
Yeah,
like,
then it
these
was
people
vice
are down
versa,
to
yeah.
go, and these people are not down to go.
Well, because what
and then
happened,
it would change.
There were 2 of us that wanted to do it, and there were 2 of us who did not want to do it. And then two of us, it split. So one that wanted, one that didn't want to, went into Jack in the Box, and the other 2 inside. We convinced each other, and then walked back out. We're like, well, now we're back to the same place we were.
I think that's what it was. I think you and me didn't want to do it.
No, we didn't.
And so you went in with the other guy
With the other
and tried to talk him out of doing it. And I was sitting in there with Randy, and like we both got talked into doing it or something.
And what that, it was split again.
Yeah.
We ended up doing it because we all just
Yeah,
decided
I mean, of course.
it's the right thing to do. You know, we're not a fucking pushover band. Let's go play the show like man.
But it just happened to be the best show, worst show, last day of tour.
What's the furthest place y'all ever played from home?
It's probably Nashville, yeah.
Michigan.
So you right before the show, y'all were mentioning that y'all are lining up a couple gigs. Do y'all have any of them booked in stone to where y'all can talk about them?
We have a gig coming up this Friday, actually.
Yes.
So that's our hometown show. It's our first show. We haven't played a show in like a solid 6 or 7 months, and it's because we hammered down on this EP.
And we were pulling in the right band members.
We have a small shout out to Rin. We have
Always.
we have a small little like hometown show we're getting thrown together. It's just a little local thing. We want to demonstrate some of the new material we've been working on, show off the new band. We're really excited for that. That's this Friday. Then after that, there is
It's at the April 20th.
I do want to talk about that for a little
Yeah,
bit.
that's the most important show to us.
April 20th, there's a show on the coast. It's at Zeppelin's. That's in Biloxi, right?
Zeppelin's Pizzeria and Bar.
It's a memorial show for a kid named Chris, and he took his own life. And that they asked us to play that show because he was a big fan of our band. And I met him a couple times. He was a really sweet kid. He and I talked a little bit about the message and my lyrics, and he was like, "Man, I really relate to the lyrics that you wrote." And I was like, "Dude, I that's why I do it. I really appreciate it. I think I gave him an album for free. I think you were there, and you're like,
Probably.
Dude. I was like, "Dude, just take the album for free, man."
Well,
It's
he was very new to the scene, I believe. I hadn't seen him around. I think he had only been coming to shows for, maybe a year. And so he was just starting to get his feet
so
wet.
excited.
Yeah.
And he came to see us at another show, after that, the first show he'd seen us at, and we found out a couple of months ago that he took his own life. And, it bummed us out, and then whenever we were asked to play the memorial show for him, we couldn't turn it down, obviously.
Yeah.
And we're going to go and play that on April 20th, in remembrance of him, and all the proceedings from the show are going to be going to the family.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
And a lot of bands that he had a connection with, a lot of them, they were friends. A lot of them, some of the bands aren't even bands anymore. They're coming back together and
It's like a little reunion.
yeah,
Right,
to
time.
play for him because he so happened to like some of these bands that have since like members have gone to other bands
Yeah.
and stuff. So they're coming back together to 2 or 3 different bands to play the same thing. I'm not sure how many people are on it. It's a bit of I think it's a bit of an all day thing, probably from noon to dusk kind of deal, isn't it?
I'm not sure. I think it starts.
Well, I know there's like 5 or 6 bands,
yeah,
so it's
there's about 5 or 6. Yeah, I mean, for obvious reasons, given the content matter of our material, it's something we feel not only obligated but more than willing to participate in.
Yeah.
So we will be
June
playing for free.
6th, I believe, as well.
I'm not sure if that's set in stone enough for us to be able to talk about, but we are. We have been asked to play a show on June 6th that we're pretty sure it's going to happen. We
Yeah.
just don't want to talk about it.
Well, we had one in June, later in June, that was solidified, but somebody just told us that they're going to be on a lovely cruise during that time, which is okay. Which is okay.
Yeah, we're not sure.
Yeah, I
She
mean,
is. She's scared of the open water. I'm really scared of the open water. I've gone on a cruise myself. I had so many fears beforehand, but it's gonna be okay. I promise. There's so much. It's so big.
There's
You
gonna
don't
be
feel the
small
water.
children like with us, and if they
Okay,
can
it's gonna be
do
so
it,
much
can
worse
do
than I thought it was
Well,
gonna be if
no,
there's gonna be
I'm
small children with you.
They're cool. They're cool kids.
Sure they are. Small children are always cool kids. Until you spend a couple days getting cabin fever with them.
Oh, I'm gonna have my own room.
Things
That's
are looking
a
up.
given.
yeah, but the delicious food and
actually
the
really excited.
all the different entertainment on.
Yeah.
As you
Wait,
know,
anywhere
they're
you
learning.
walk.
I love me some food.
Anywhere you walk, there is something going on at any time of night, day, whatever.
The other day, whenever I was going to meet them for practice, they told me that to call them when I got to the Planet Fitness, and I was like, fitness, what's that? And then I sent them a little video, and I actually had an entire pizza and a box of wings in my
Pizza sounds good
passenger
right now.
seat because I was driving from here to Mississippi. I was
Yeah.
like, I gotta bring the snacks.
No
Hour and a
judgment. No
half.
judgment.
I can't go an hour and a half without eating.
It's-
I'm like,
that
oh my
doesn't
She
happen.
very seriously looked at you, was like, "Do you not even know me?"
I'm like a hummingbird. I have to eat every like 20 minutes. In fact, I'm hungry right
That's
now.
actually good for metabolism.
Yeah, I figured that's the only reason why I'm not like 8 of me.
8 of me.
So, where can people follow the band?
All of the things.
Yeah, Instagram at Official Arabesque, Facebook at Official Arabesque, YouTube at Official Arabesque. We release weekly vlogs there, along other random content and stuff like that. You can
The
also
first album is on.
the first
Yeah,
album
first
is on there. The
album.
music video, the Prelude to a Funeral single, and a bunch of us being silly throughout our daily lives, kind of keeping you updated on the music as well as keeping you updated with us personally. We do a lot of it's on the Instagram, honestly.
That's where we do most of our stuff.
We have I think we just got on Vero. That's a new upcoming site.
Yeah.
So we wanted to have a presence there. What's the booking? Do you
So
know-
our email address, if anybody's interested in booking us, is booking.arabesqueband@gmail.com. Short, simple, sweet.
I'm forgetting one. The merch. arabesquemerch.bigcartel.com.
So go check that out if you want to see like some posters or anything.
That was a doozy.
All the plugs out of the way.
Plug it in, plug it in.
Well, before we leave here, do y'all have one of y'all songs that y'all want me to lead out with?
Yeah, probably Prelude to a Funeral.
Yeah, that
It's
one's
on YouTube.
nice.
It's got the best quality. It's what we've actually. It's the first song we had come together and written as the band. So that's why we wanted to put it out as the single.
Okay.
But yeah, thanks so much for listening,
Yeah.
guys.
Thank y'all for coming on, as always.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, be sure to check them out. And be sure
Finger
to
guns.
check us out. Facebook.com/The Scoop Show, at Pickle Scoop on Instagram, at P Scoop Podcast on Twitter, picklescoop.com. Subscribe on iTunes or your favorite podcast app, or subscribe to our YouTube, which we still don't have a channel name because YouTube changed up all kinds of stupid rules and made
They
it
did.
to
We
where-
just got
just
our
got one.
URL to
Yeah.
be customized because of all of that.
Yeah, so like I'm still some weird
Numbers.
long ass number way behind it. Hopefully I'll be able to get that customized soon.
Yeah.
Soon,
So
soon.
till the next show, Scoop out.